So hopefully I'm going to be able to dispel a little bit of a mythology about pay-for-performance search engine optimization. So what is pay-for-performance SEO? So it's really the concept of basing compensation on results over billable hours. So what does that mean? How do we determine this? It's really simple. If your keyword or the keyword phrase is on page 1 of a Google organic search listing, then you're paying. If we don't get you on page 1, you don't pay. So this is really important to tell everybody that pay for performance, are we guaranteeing results? So what we are doing is actually we're guaranteeing that if we get you on page 1, you pay us. If we don't get you on page 1, you don't pay us. If you absolutely positively have to be on page 1 overnight, we got a great AdWords program to help you do that. All right, so why does this structure matter? So it matters because it creates a digital marketing transparency. So we really believe that by offering a pay-for-performance model, you're offering honesty and transparency in what we think is a fragmented or broken industry. All right, so all that's great, but how do you sell transparency and get rankings? So Google makes about 500 to 600 algorithm updates a year, and a lot of the bigger ones you know about because they have names like the panda, the penguin, the pigeon, the hummingbird, the possum. It's super hard to find a good-looking picture of a possum online. All right, my guess is the next one's going to be something like an alien cat. All right? So it's important to note that Google doesn't release what these updates are. So that leaves companies like Moz postulating, but more important, scores of SEO agencies selling tactics based on this knowledge gap. All right, so I want you to think about this for a minute. Is it easier to sell complexity or transparency? So is it easier to buy on complexity or transparency? Are you talking about monthly blog posts, LSI, PR blasts, content silos, article submissions, SSL certs, code cleaning, EXIF data, meta tagging? There are dozens and dozens and dozens of tactics, and they are constantly evolving and changing. But before you decide if you want to sell on complexity or transparency, I want you to think about this for a minute. So with all of these updates, how come when we do a Google search, it's really easy to find how to make a Long Island iced tea? It's really easy to find big wave search pictures. It's really easy to figure out if Mikey really died from Pop Rocks and Coke. That's because Google is a relevance engine. Google's job is to return relevance based on the user's search. So I'm going to tell you something that most SEOs don't want people to hear, all right? So remember when I said 500 to 600 algorithm updates a year? That's 1.3 to 1.6 updates per day. So do you think that all of the websites on the internet are adjusting based on these updates every day? Are you guys updating your websites every day to maintain or achieve rankings? No, because you don't have to, all right? And the reason is that Google has to focus on returning relevant results. And what happens if they take their algorithm updates and make them so refined that all of these websites aren't able to pass through these filters, right? If that happens, then Google will not be able to return relevant results anymore. And the second that that happens, we all stop using Google, all right? So which updates do we follow? So like every other mathematical monster in the universe, we think that Google follows the Pareto principle, or what everybody knows is really the 80-20 rule. So they spend 80% of their time trying to catch the bad guys, the black hatters. The other 20% of their time, they're working on the user experience. So if you focus your SEO efforts in this 20%, then you can ignore all these 80% if you're not breaking the rules, and you're not only going to enhance the user experience, but you're going to get positive rankings, and you can sail through all those nasty animal updates. So how do we do it at Green Banana? We've been doing this for 9 years, almost exclusively through agencies. So we research, we test, we test, we test, and we test more. Then we analyze and we measure our results, and we refine and we implement based on scale, and then we rinse and repeat. And so right now we have about an 80-step process. This is going to change. It changes and evolves all the time. But our customers don't have to worry about that, because all they're worrying about is whether we get them ranked on page 1, not what they chose, what tactic they chose that we're doing. All right, so if there's any SEO geeks out here, so here are some fun facts that the SEO industry talks about that we have found actually don't impact rankings. HTML errors, are actually not a rank factor. Bulleted lists don't affect ranks. Flesh readability, this was really big last year, is actually not a ranking factor. Grammar, while I think it's really important, is actually not a rank factor. Content freshness that everybody talks about is a ranking factor, but it's a lot weaker than we had anticipated. All right, so what are some of the benefits of selling pay for performance? So the client isn't burdened, or the salesperson isn't burdened with which tactics to sell or which tactics they have to choose. All right? If someone comes up and says, well, what are you going to do? We're going to do everything we can do to get you ranked on page 1. The commitment to performance doesn't need to be sold. People know that we're in this because if we don't get them ranked, we can't bill them. And then finally, I think my favorite one is any objections to the model, any objections to the method are answered by the model. So this company's doing these 3 tactics, what are you doing? We're going to do everything it takes to get you ranked on page 1. If the algorithm changes, that's our problem to figure it out. Well, what if you guys are using black hat techniques? What if you're doing something Google doesn't want you to do? Well, if we do that and you lose your rankings, we can't bill. So it behooves us to follow the rules. So an unintended benefit that came out of this, it's something that we really didn't expect, was customer service becomes a lot easier. So month 1, the client goes from page 60 to page 2, they're still not getting a bill. Most agencies bill month 1, and then they're left with answering, I need to know what you guys did this month. I need to see a report of everything because nothing really happened. Right? So they don't get that from us. And then finally, we have like really simple billing and reporting. It's like, here you were when we started, here you are now, here's where you are moving up and down on a consistent basis, right? So if clients don't believe that when they get the bill, they just go Google it themselves. And then finally, a little bit about Green Banana. So we've been sort of doing this for 9.5 years as a pay-for-performance SEO company. We work almost exclusively with agency partners. We have over 62 of them now, and then we have 86% of all of our keywords we manage that are ranking on page 1. Anybody have any questions? Great, thank you.